Hey, what is going on, you sexy recruiters? This
Oh,
is David Seven Patterson. You may call me DSP. This is the Headhunters live with my beautiful co-host right there, Neil Lipovitz. Excuse my French. Anyway, what's going on, Neil?
hey, brother. Everything is lovely. Kind of decent weather here in Manhattan. Finally, and fall like, brisk, lovely, crisp nights.
Yeah, I love this time of year. When the weather gets kind of crisp. Now, of course, here in Florida, I've got crazy humidity. So when it gets nice and dry during the summer, that's when I love it. Um, but
People do
we
apple picking here starting around now. It's a big thing. I used to do it all the time, but it's ridiculous because how many apples can one eat, right? You come back with, they
will
sell them
do.
by the bushel.
Well, now let me ask you this. So because I know apple picking would be kind of romantic. So do you and your fella, like, do you ever go out on like these apple picking dates? You know, no
Not that
judgment if
there's
you
anything
do. It's
wrong
cool.
with that. I do swing the female way.
There's
That
nothing
said,
wrong with
I
apple
have
picking, by
not
the
gone
way.
on a date with it. I did years ago. I did it with the kids. I did it. Yeah, you would. It's a great date. I don't know. Yeah, you don't do it with the guys. It's definitely not a listen. I know you're much more of a man than I am. What, you have to point that out every episode?
No, not at all. Like it's a brave new world, brother. It is a brave new world. Don't be a phobe. Hey, speaking of which, by the way, we have not speaking of which, we have a great show today. I want to let you guys know what we're talking about before we get too deep into this. We have Peter Rubenstein on the call with us. Now, Chris, by the way, will be here maybe halfway through the show. He's going to be running a little bit late, but Peter Rubenstein is going to be on the call with us, and he's going to be talking to us about selling your firm. He actually specializes in connecting investors and staffing firm owners, and so we're going to be talking about valuations. We're going to talk about how to do it on the sneak if you're trying to sell without it being public. We'll talk about what you can do right now to increase the value of your firm. Yeah, and so with that said, if everybody, if you're watching this live, please do me a favor, comment live down below. It'll help the algorithm and help more people see it. Give us some likes, give us some loves, etc. We're really trying to grow the show, and we need you guys to help us do that. If every one of you shared watching this for the next couple of days, shared the show, we'd be the biggest show out there. So help us
And if
reach
they
more
tell two
people.
friends, and they
Mhm.
tell two friends, and so on and so on. That was an
Well,
old
there's not
commercial in the '70s.
that. In fact, that was a multi-level marketing right there, man. In fact, I will admit I did do Amway in my early
Oh, you
20s.
did not.
It got me. It got me. Well, I
Oh,
was always
see, and you were one
entrepreneurial,
of
and
those guys that would grab your buddies and try to convince them that you found the way of the future for right.
well, yeah. Well, at the time I didn't. This is before I discovered staffing and recruiting. So, because I always wanted to start my own business. Always wanted to be entrepreneurial. I didn't have any direction, so I got sucked into the Amway thing, and then I discovered recruiting, and then I went that direction.
Dude,
But yeah, man, Amway.
it's like a cult, those MLM things, man. One of my
Oh yeah.
buddies, who turns out it's Peter's cousin, his first cousin, my God, Craig. He was in it when he was right out of college, and it was not Amway. It was one of the AL Williams Insurance, and he
Mhm.
had him go to this meeting, didn't tell me much, and then we come out, and he's like, "How are you? What's your perception?" It was like, oh my God, like trying to get you on, like, I just found out you're gonna become a billionaire, and there's no way you can lose, and he's one of my best friends, right? Like, it's nuts, that MLM stuff. It still
Oh, it
exists.
is, and they really saw that dream, man. They when I went joined, they would. I remember I was in I was like, God, 20, 21 or whatever. And I remember, the guy got me and was like, when I got in, he's like, he would take me to these events, and he's like, all right, do you tell me what kind of car do you want? Like what, like your dream car? Mine's a Jaguar, and he's driving this
Uh-huh.
jalopy Toyota,
Right.
Corolla, whatever. And so, it was one of those things. It was interesting. It was my first foray into entrepreneurship. Didn't quite
That's
work
so
out,
cool.
but
Now we can make
yeah.
money the old-fashioned way with sponsorship from our tens of viewers. Do you know how much we get paid by Diet Pepsi to promote the brand? They don't know these things, David.
It's dimes, stacks of dimes. It
Stats, it's
is
crazy.
stacks
Every
of
time I
dimes,
take a
stacks of
sip,
stacks.
it's like liquid. It's like liquid
Mhm.
diamonds, right?
Well, let's on that note, let's bring Peter on because I want to make sure we have
Yes.
enough time to get into the meat of things. So, Peter, welcome on. Let's bring you in. And
There.
what is there? He is. the only Peter
Hello.
Rubenstein. So,
What's up,
before we
everybody?
get
How are
into
you?
hey, what's up, Peter? Hey, so before we get into everything, Peter, we'll introduce you here in a second, but before we get into it, do you prefer to go by Pete, Peter, P Dog, T Bone? What's your preferred nickname?
Just Pete, Peter. No, it doesn't matter. It's all good.
Peter. All right. Fair enough. Well, we'll tell you what. Let's start in. Like
Cool.
so who are you? What do you do? And what are you going to share with us today?
Well, thanks, guys. This is an awesome show. I've been listening for a little bit, and
Thank you.
I think I have some good advice for a lot of the listeners. I started my career 24 years ago. Man, I'm getting old. It's really terrible,
dude.
And Neil was a big Maharai back in the day. He was like, big time at what was it, Agilon or something? Presidente.
Wow.
And here I am, trying to do some business with them. But guys, all I could say is it was a big company I was part of, and and we had a very, very large exit, and it was one of the best moments of my life.
All right, let me say this for everyone watching, because yes, we've gone back in business. We've known each other personally. You've been in the business for a long time. Peter's a big player in the business. He's created lots of different companies in the business that people know of and stuff. I'm just saying he's very humble. He's never going to say anything. We're not going to talk about it. But Peter's a player. So when he talks about staffing and gives you advice, he's not a broker. Oh, let me bring on a broker and get you guys like, he's a real deal. Okay. I'll leave it at that. It's a big deal. Yeah. So go ahead, Peter.
The buyers are people that own, 500 million, billion, $2 billion businesses. A lot of you guys are small, and what I wanted to, go over today with you guys, and, I'll let David lead it and however you guys want, but there is a really cool way to say, if you're out on your own and you're small, easily, if you work, if you have some clients and you go the route that we tell you, you can make a couple of $1 million easy on a sale. Very easy, because big guys are looking for your one customer that they don't have, and they'll pay you a decent multiple for your business.
One customer they don't have. It's a great point, right? It's always different, right?
Correct.
Right. You don't know.
Customer, hey, for instance, I have a friend who has a fraternity brother who let him on a really good account. He doesn't have, maybe he has 8 or 9 guys working there. It's not huge, but it's really hard to get that account. And let me tell you, it's these little things that you may not think of, but I will tell you, if you have an opportunity to do business, do it. You have a back office right here. You don't need money. You have someone that will fund it for you. You have a coach that will teach you how to do things. And then you have a schmeck like me that will sell it to someone and put a few $1 million in your pocket. So what are you waiting?
Well, okay. So speaking about that, we don't want to start. Let's start general, because I think for a lot of folks who maybe haven't been in the business that long, so they don't understand what it takes to sell a recruiting business, because there's obviously direct hire, there's retained search, there's staff augmentation, contracting. So maybe you walk us through some of the basic building blocks of what makes a firm valuable and what doesn't.
And what determines multiples, all that, Peter.
Right.
Like you're talking to people that they've asked so many questions, like anything that, again, I have so many questions. So just anything you want to talk about.
Sure. I will say that I'm sure everyone on the call does a lot of perm, and retained is the start of where your evaluation goes, but it's the consulting where you'll need like a boss or a back office solution to help you fund it, but even if you have 10 or 20 people on billing, it's worth money. And even if they go off billing, you still could put them back on billing. And, to get an evaluation, they're looking at what have you done and what can they buy? Because when they buy you, your perm fees are already paid. So it's really, there is a value to it, but it's not a big value. So if you
What's
have
the
10 or
multiple on only perm, by the way? I get asked that all the time now. I know it's really low with earnouts, straight perm, right? Like,
you know, it's really, it's not even a multiple. It's just, what is the client? How long have you been doing business? And what are they willing to pay for that? Because a lot of people can get in on a perm contract. They're not as hard to get unless you're talking about a Fortune 500 company that may have a value of a half to a 1x. But
wow, that's it, right? Half to 1x.
it's
Wow.
very low.
Wow.
Now,
I
now,
knew it
now,
was low.
now with that said, no, for direct hire though, let's say it was like more like an RPO
Retained,
model, or like maybe a
retained could
rolling
be
retainer
higher.
model, like a long term,
Yeah,
like that, like a long term return. Like anything that's
sure,
recurring revenue basically is the
sure.
key, right?
Yeah, I would say retained. You know, if they're doing, you know, $500,000 a year more, I think they can get a 4 or 5x on that model.
Now with
Right.
that model, then what is it like? Okay, so what if it's a one person show? That's the one thing I think that a lot of people have to think about. Yeah, you may be doing $500,000 a year, but if it's the Peter Rubenstein show, for example, and there's nobody else in the firm, that's got to affect obviously the multiple, right? In fact, you probably have to agree to stay on for
Sure. I
That's
mean,
the thing, right,
that's the
Peter,
thing.
on
You know,
perm?
it depends on the buyer. Like a lot of these smaller companies that are the one man shows, they want to maybe stay on because they may go to a place that will say, "Hey, I'll give you 15 recruiters at my cost, and all you need to do is bring in jobs, and we'll fill them." And now your little, $1.5 million company can go to 10 million, and you may get an earn-out on the back end where you'll make another 1.5 million in 3 years. So there's a
This is, I
lot of
love that
cool
you bring
ways
up,
to
you
do
bring
that.
up all these wild situations that aren't wild. Their point is you don't know when people say, I'm not selling.
Right.
And if you've been in business for a couple of years or whatever it is, you have something there. You want to talk to people always, right, Peter? Because you don't know.
Always.
You've just brought up so many things. I'm like, oh, of course, right? Like, who knows what's going to appeal to somebody, and then they might be willing to pay you a ridiculous amount or some nothing, right? Like, I love your
There, it's interesting. I have transactions where a lot of people do IT, a lot of people do medical, but like, this medical guy, he didn't really want to sell, but I hooked him up with a company who has like 150 people coming in, travelers from the Philippines, where, that company would instantly have a place to put their people with this guy. And a guy wasn't willing to sell, but now they're in very heavy talks because it looks like, maybe they'll do like a 51-49 split.
wow.
And he'll let the company keep growing, but they'll have some skin in the game.
And then you become
Listen,
like
you
a
don't
real
have to sell your
CEO.
whole company, guys. You could
Right,
sell
right,
half
but
of it or 51%.
And that's the thing people don't think about too, right? And then you can leverage all these resources and become a player or whatever, right?
Sure. Right. Like it doesn't mean that you're giving away your baby. You can just bring someone in that you're missing that one piece where, you may need a firm that maybe their name, maybe your client is so good, but you don't have the muscle behind it. Maybe if you take on a bigger entity that helps you get to where you have to go, you could do 10 times more business and become a lot more valuable. And you don't have to be afraid to migrate from perm to contracting, because really, guys, the contracting is where you're going to get, anywhere from a 5 to an 8x. If you're doing contracting in government contracts, state, local government, you're going to get a 7x. And the reason why is because those contracts last a long time and they're much more valuable.
But think about that for a second, right? Think about that. Even if you're not selling now, everyone, it's worth 7x. Okay. That means it's not dollar for dollar. No, I don't want to do contract. I don't do that. I can get more on my search fees. One and done. It's yesterday's news. Your $30,000 search fee, right? You get that on the contracting side of the business. Let's say it's only 20,000 you get. Okay. That's worth $140,000 to you.
And you're getting that 20,000 every month.
Right.
It's a monthly, you're getting it monthly.
Exactly. Right. So it's worth so much. It's the only way you get valuation. And Peter's the expert on it because, right, Peter, like,
Even if you're
make it
small,
make
it's
sense.
worth talking to us. And you know what? If you're not ready to sell, maybe Dave can coach you, and, you guys could work with, boss, where all you have to do is get the contract, put the people to work. They finance the whole payroll. It's so easy. If you have an account that brings in contractors and you're not doing it, start doing it, because it will build your evaluation higher. I truly think that that's the way to go. Retained search is great, and just straight perm is great, but straight perm, it's very, very hard. It's more of a lifestyle business. If you could make a couple of 100,000 a year in placements, that's your income. And it's hard to sell that, guys. You want to try to get more robust for an exit.
Well, let's talk about multiples. You mentioned multiples a couple of times, and those folks who don't know, you're talking about a multiple of the net income, not your gross revenue, but net income. But I would have to imagine that if it's a solo operator, even if say like a retained one, where it's a bit more attractive to investor, we're talking about a multiple of your net. And I think you would agree. I would imagine that if you're a solo operator, your net is actually going to be different than the net they would consider, because you're probably not taking a salary. So your net income includes what you would make if you worked for, let's say, the acquiring company. So is that, and I might be wrong, but is that something that is taken into consideration? With
Sure. I yeah, I mean, but
or is it already built in, Peter? Or is it already built into the ridiculously low multiple, right? It is for sure, right? How does it come out?
I mean, it's a hard question to answer.
Right. It is baked in, David, to the multiple. It is I get it. Yeah, good question.
Well, so let me ask you this. So let's talk about the market. So obviously we're in a much different place in the market than we were a year ago. So what's the appetite right now for these search firms that may want, or seven firms that may want to sell?
I would say a lot of people, individual companies, are looking to buy. The private equity slowed down because money's expensive, and but there are companies that would love to buy a smaller company for the accounts. And there's a lot of people that I work with that have tasked me to do that. So,
okay.
There's a big appetite. If you're a huge $100 million firm, that's a whole nother level. Like, they're going to the PE firms, but that's a tougher business now to sell, because the money's expensive. It's expensive money now.
So I have a question for you. And David, can you please put up the website to backofficenow.com/broker, where you can sign up for a form, get introduced to Peter and stuff like that for Boss Brokerage.
Shameless plug. Shameless. All right. Here's your shameless plug.
Well, it's a plug for
kidding.
Peter.
I feel no shame.
For ourselves, it's just we're going to grab it, capture it nicely, and refer anyone over, who wants to talk and wants to get more. So I guess it is a shameless plug. Peter, my question is, I was involved in M&A from a larger company perspective, but I did some smaller acquisitions when I was president. From someone like you that deals with these smaller players, you get it really, really well. What are things that they should look for? What makes them more valuable? For example, like your client base, right? Like you were mentioning, government contract as an example. Things like diversified clients. That's important, as opposed to you could do $1 million in perm, but if it's a one client, like what are those things that they can do to increase their value, even if they're not selling today?
You may want to diversify the types of people you place. Maybe you want to do some IT, some medical, some engineering. It's nice to have a diverse book, where a buyer will say, okay, they're hitting, maybe because we may do all those three, and maybe we could grow all three, which would make it, more appealing to a buyer. So, that's one thing. You want to have a really good website. You want to have some press releases. You want to do things to make your image look beautiful. And
last week's show.
what separate, when you guys are on sales calls, right? Why should I deal with you? What separates you from the guy I just spoke to 10 minutes ago? So, you want to have a little bit of a differentiator in your story, whether you're using AI technologies or whatever it is, you want to promote it and get the word out there and go with it. But you certainly, want to build your customer base. Every quarter you should definitely add one customer, no matter
what
what.
about what about red flags? So there's things that we should, or people should aim to have when they want to sell. What about red flags? So let's say somebody comes to you, like, what are the red flags that you or some of the buyers you work with look for?
Yeah, like for instance, I mean, there's a lot of them, but the biggest one is, you got to have your stuff together, like QuickBooks. You want, people are not going to buy you if you don't have a balance sheet. You could say, hey, we do 1.7 million in top line, and then they're going to ask for your bank statements, and if they don't add up, then you don't do 1.7 million. So be honest. Don't fabricate your numbers. Never. Just keep everything 100% to the penny honest, because these people
always
that are
come out in due diligence, and it's always
right. They're going to have accountants doing it.
Great advice.
Yeah.
Great advice.
Right. So just be honest, and if you get a little less, at least you're getting an offer. I will tell you that I have people that are buying very small firms. So if you want out and you have a few clients, even if you're doing $500,000 a year, I still have someone that would buy you. And if you do, 30 million a year, which I don't know how many of you do, or 100 million a year. So I like those, but the little ones are good too. So, please, back office now, go to there, just give us a little blurb. Hey, I have a firm, my top line is this, and, I'll call you, and if you want back office, I'm sure Neil will call you, and, we'll take it from there. But, whether you're small, medium, big, we could talk, and we could also assist you on how to grow if you're not ready. And I'm sure David could coach you, and get you there. And so between us, we could really prepare you for, the $5 million exit that you've been waiting for. To get 5 million, it's a lot better than the million. But to get 5 million, I would say you have to be making 1 million to 1.5 million a year. So that's, and that's not a lot, guys. You could have an IT guy at 150 an hour, paying him 100, making 50 an hour. You have 23 of those guys, and then, there's a lot of business out there. It depends on who you're dealing with. So,
hey, by the way, we have our largest placement ever. Look at this guy; he's getting $750 an hour.
Jesus.
How's that for a temp gig? For a 3-year assignment? How's that for a gig?
For a 3-year assignment? That's pretty.
3 years,
man.
What is he? He's an Uber driver in in Israel, going to the Gaza Strip back and forth. Yeah. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Let's pray for the people, guys.
Yeah.
But, actually, speaking of which, so I've got a buddy of mine in Jerusalem right now. I think he's getting out today to Dubai. Him and his family. But yeah, brutal.
No one can get out.
Yeah,
but
and there are people here in the U.S. are celebrating it, which is absolutely disgusting. Not take a side, but I'll take a side. There are people out there who are celebrating this shit, and it's disgusting. Anyway, let's not bring it on the show. But
do we take any questions on the show or no?
Yeah, we had one person just commented here, Kwame. What job is it?
It's the CEO of a large company, of a mid-sized company, but it's owned by a Saudi Arabian company, they're an engineering company.
Wow!
And so they have lots of money, the Saudis.
Well, actually, for anybody who does have any questions, drop them in, and we'll get them answered as we see them. So, all right. So, all right. Let's talk about this. Kwame, you can see Kwame is I know he's I believe he lives in Scotland, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, Scotland.
Oh wow.
So, all right. Let's talk about international companies, right? So not just US based, but if you're in Australia and Europe, if you're, whatever, what are the considerations if you're international?
So there are buyers that are global. And if you have a business in Scotland or, the EMEAs and, the Nordics, I mean, people want that because there's something you guys are established. You've already done the business with the government, set up the bank accounts. It's a lot of legwork that they may not have to do. And it's a good entry point for them.
Yeah. Do they have to have
That's a
business
good
in the
point.
US, Peter?
Well, no, not at all.
Okay.
My
No, 'cause if
buyers,
Kwame does it,
my
or maybe
buyers are
Tom.
global.
Okay. Because we
So
have a
it
bunch.
doesn't matter where they are.
Yeah. Okay. David has we have a lot of viewers in the UK,
Oh,
and some of the larger part of the union, but UK pretty sizable.
Yeah,
Right? 20%.
UK, Australia is another big one as
Yeah,
well.
Australia too. Yeah.
Yeah. All
Right.
right. So,
Jason Elias on there, out there. Exactly. All search. Yeah.
So what does a typical purchase look like? So let's say they contact you, they go through due diligence, and you have a buyer. So let's say the deal goes through. Like, generally speaking, what's the process like post sale? Like, what does that look like for?
so let's just say
For
the
average.
company, does I don't know, like 10 million a year. The EBITDA of a million. And let's say, they agree on a formula. First of all, the sale probably could take 5 to 7 months. There's a lot of due diligence. Sometimes they wait for a month. They want all the contracts. There's a lot of legwork. Sometimes, the quickest one, the small ones could be 3 months. And then post sale, there's a lot of different things. The owners may want an out, so they agree to just stay on for 6 months. Some owners want to only be on for 3 months, and then it depends. Some owners want to be on for a year, and then in that year, there's a compensation package that's agreed to. So there's a million ways, and really, if you're the seller, you're calling your shot, and if they accept it, they may adjust it, but don't be bashful. It's your company; they're buying it. So if you want to get paid for the year that you're there, then you're going to get paid.
Who pays for all
So
this?
yeah, you have to figure it's a 6 to 8. Huh?
No, keep going. Sorry, brother.
Who what?
6. No, keep going. It's a 6 to 8 guy.
It's a 6 to 8 month general process, and when it gets into the lawyer's hands, you have a closing date, just like a house, and then you close, and then all the future receivables go to the new company, and at that point, you will probably have a larger recruiting team, and they're going to want you to grow but you're going to want to grow your business bigger because you're going to probably have a payout. Let's just say a typical payout would be 60% down, 30% in a year and 10%, in 2 years. And that last buyout will be tied to maybe like an earnout, where if you grow the business, you get more money or something like that. So, they get creative.
Yeah.
Now,
So,
Kwame has a
what I was
question here.
interrupting with was- I was interrupting with the question before we had from Kwame. Go ahead, David.
Yeah. Kwame has a question. He said, "What's involved in the due diligence process? Can you explain the details?" Now, I'm going to assume part of that also involves where you've got to look over your shoulder and cough, right? So
It's your
beyond
financials.
that,
It's your bank statements. It's your your last 2 years, tax returns. They're going to want all your accounts in terms of the contracts. Because remember, contracts could renew every 3 years. Maybe you're doing MSP business. Maybe you're not. They're going to evaluate. Everything has a price. Things get evaluated with a different multiple depending on what it is. And these companies have it down to a science. And some people just have their own way of evaluating, and some people do it a different way. And you as the seller, that's why it's good to, go with a guy like me, because I'll bring it to 2 or 3 buyers, and you'll see, if they're all interested, one guy may say, "I'll buy you for 1.4," one will be at 1.5, one will be at 1.3. They're going to be very close because they're their evaluation, they're pretty close.
Mhm.
You know, they're you know,
And what's the going fee for what's the latest? I know it totally changes, but it's 5-10%. What's the go with the seller fee? What do they
it
pay?
depends. Like it just depends on the size of the business. But for small firms, we usually take like, you know, 8 to 10%
8 to
of
10,
that.
yeah.
So if they get $1 million, you know, we would take, you know, 8 to 10%.
Yeah.
All right.
That's
So,
that's standard, right? It's been that way forever.
10 is
But-
standard, but
wanna-
you know, if
Yeah,
the bigger
yeah.
they are, we go lower. It's like a real
Right.
estate transaction.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's cool.
well, so that said, I want to get a little bit silly, if you don't mind, just for a minute. But I really want to ask this question. So, and if you can't answer, totally okay, because there might be confidentiality issues. But what is your either funniest, craziest, zaniest, is some like you're like everybody has a go-to war story they typically tell about what they do. What's one of yours that you could share, if you have any?
Oh, in this business,
Yeah.
Crazy deal that went awry, or
you know, I just think that, you know, the weirdest thing that really ever happened is that, and it's just not even crazy. It's truly just, you know, the people that want to sell will overstate what they have, and during due diligence, it could be 50% less, and the buyers get mad, and it happens. But that's why you got to just go in honest, and you know. There's really nothing crazy, like, you know, not in this business. Other businesses, yes, but not this business.
well, yeah, Peter always has stories. To add color, well, what we should say is what's kind of cool. I don't know if anyone's noticed. I'm normally the token Jew to Chris and David, and now we got Peter and I ganging up on David. It's kind of exciting. If Chris doesn't join us, we have a very Jew-dominated call today.
Well,
I
well,
know-
actually, technically, I'm connected to Jewish faith, not through me, but through my better half, my youngest daughter, because I know it goes through the female line. So technically, my youngest daughter, is one of the chosen people. So,
Oh,
so I'm
And
connected.
my
So I'm
ex-wife
connected.
was
Yeah.
Catholic,
Yeah.
but she was Jewish by injection. Good on done. Okay. And
what I will say,
love it.
guys, the truth
Love
is that keep your QuickBooks up to date. You know, you want to have financial statements, which is you could just do, you know, very simple, like money in, money out, put it in QuickBooks by client X, money in, money out. And it's so easy. It's really not rocket science.
Kwame asked here in Australia, pre-2008, it was 8 times EBITDA, and contract focused business 12 times. What's it now? And he says post-2008, it was 4 times. I don't know if you necessarily would have that information necessarily off the top of your head, but
listen, that's a great question, but it's all hearsay. I mean, there is no. If a business got 12x, then they were involved with a lot of government. They probably had an MSP involved, you know, where they had business going through their software. If you're just a staffing firm, you're never getting 12x. It's never happening. Unless, like the biggest, like I have one going now.
Just a staffing firm, just a search firm, you mean?
If you're a consulting, I have one now that's 120 million with a 12.5 million EBITDA. They'll be lucky to get 7x.
Right.
And that's big. And that's straight out. There's no technology, no MSP business, no VMS business. They're just monsters. They deal with Apple, Meta, you know. So also a big dilution of EBITDA is, let's say you do 10 million in business and 7.5 million is with one customer. It's very scary. Your EBIT is going to be X minus X, because if they lose that customer, you know, and again, and the buyer is going to have to go on the phone with them. And again, you know, your contract may be 3 years or 5 years. And if you only have 1 year left, it's very scary. So they're going to spend so much money. And then if you lose the contract, then what? So that could be a buy, and that buy could have conditions, you know, based on the customer staying and re-upping. Then you'll get your full money.
You know, I'm curious.
Wait, Kwame's upset.
Oh yeah.
not talking now. Sid wasn't here, so I just want to say what Peter means is not that they didn't get 12. We believe your story, of course they did. The hearsay meaning that you could also hear stories of people that got 4 or 2, where Peter's going right now, where it goes way lower than that. So it's not a number that he could come up with. Say Australia's 8 to 12. So
listen, if the guy got 12, he may have had. Well, here's a good one. Let's say they had a business where he's making huge, like he's making 40% margins, and he has, tons of people on billing for many years. The buyer may have said, wow, this guy really has unbelievable niche, unbelievable people, and I can't replicate that. So I'll give him a double X, because I really love the business so much. There's so many reasons why that person could have got 12. But I'm talking in the mass, especially now, it depends on the size of your company. The smaller you are, the you're not going to get the higher multiples.
All right, are we good, Kwame? Because we can't afford to alienate 50% of our viewership with the 2 viewers on today. We can't get one of them upset with us. So, Kwame, we're sorry.
Kwame's awesome. He's by the way, Kwame, I'll reach out to you soon. We need to connect. He's a great guy, by the way. Great guy. I've known him for quite a few years. So all right, so Peter, so you've obviously been you're doing this now, but you've been in the business for a long time. You won't reveal the company, but your exit was it was a company in this field. So, and it was a fairly big one. So you've had a lot of experience, and you've had a lot of, I'm sure, again, more stories and whatnot. And I'm curious, what do you see over the next 5-10 years? It's actually, it's been like 3 to 5, or the next 3 to 5 years. Where do you see the industry going?
I will tell
any predictions?
The thing that is interesting now is all this AI technology. A lot of the MSPs right now are bringing in tools like Optly, which they are going to their customers and saying, hey, you could use this to crowdsource folks for your internal, hiring, where you could still use us as the MSP. We'll payroll for you, but we won't need an agency. There are things against the agency, but on the flip side of that is they will always need agencies. I will say that if you're an IT guy, it's the worst year you probably ever had, and it could only get better. I think that, we have elections and interest rates and business and stock market and all that. But I think that it's going to be the next, if I have to be an analyst, I would say the next 6 months are going to remain the same. Maybe be a slight uptick because the budgets will come out in January. I think the Fortune 5 they will hire their IT people. I don't think there'll be massive increases, but I think that it's going to be a rough year, but I think it will be slightly better than this year. And then I think the year after we'll start to swing back. And there will be a time where IT is crazy again, because if you really think about it, with all the cybersecurity and all the things going on, just think like this is how you have to think of it. I'm 53. When Neil and I were, in grade school, there were no cell phones. Think about how in all of our lives there has been a technical evolution. Think about it. Think about TVs that used to push the button to change the channels. Think about Netflix and all these crazy things. So there will be technical people that aren't even invented. So like if you're really smart, you may want to get a niche and try to go into chat rooms, get these people and advertise that you have the best 10 cybersecurity people that do X, Y, and Z, things that no one's ever heard of maybe. And start your own little thing, but you have to kind of think
David, it's great, David. We should do a whole show. We're going to invite Peter back on not broker stuff. David, let's talk about that with the whole niche thing, because it's such a huge topic, and it's I love that.
And listen, firms all do the same thing, but if you could figure out this new thing that, remember Y2K, Neil, when we first got into business?
Yeah.
It could be another one of these weird things that could happen. And if you're like first to market on it, you win. You win big.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, yeah. There's. I mean, gosh. I mean, look. You look at it. Just five. There are niches now that are really, really healthy
Sure.
that didn't exist like 3, 4, or 5 years ago.
Sure.
Block one, for example. In fact, I remember speaking about when you were young, not having cell phones. I remember when I was in high school, if you had a pager, it would assume that you were a drug dealer,
Oh yeah.
basically. Only drug
You were
dealers had
or a
pagers at that
doctor.
point.
Or a
Yeah,
doctor.
yeah. But all right, so let's do this, and we'll wrap this up here pretty soon. But what would you say? What advice would you give? Let's say, obviously, we want to get people who are interested now to reach out to you through backofficenow.com/broker. But let's say they're not ready yet, right? What advice would you give somebody who's watching now if they want to sell sometime next year and get ready for it? What should they start doing now to get ready and prepare?
And before
I
you
would
answer that,
say,
Peter,
yes,
could
sir.
you just have David remove the broker / and that's your answer to get involved in the temp business? That's my commercial and plug. Go to Back Office Staffing Solutions. We're going to help you.
Shameless.
Got to get in the business. Peter, I don't want you to plug me. What's the real answer? They have to do it. That's a great question, David.
Keep your book straight. Get one new account every quarter, no matter what. Even if you're kicking ass, you must get a new account or you don't go to sleep. You network with people. You co-broker your perms. You don't, no one is better than anyone else. Make all the friends you can in the business. Try to partner with people. I don't know if you guys do MSP business. A lot of the people are very successful in that sell their companies, but there's also a lot of direct business still left. You really have to learn how to market into these accounts. You should have 3 meetings a week with new prospects to try to send your deck out, your value proposition, and you must always be selling.
Well,
Don't
speaking of
stop.
which, time for my shameless plug. If you want to look right down there, if you actually want to get ready for a sell next year, one of the very best things you can do is to install a sales and marketing system in your business. And my company, the Digital Headhunter, can do it in less than 45 days. So just reach out to us through realdsp.me/build. There's a 35-minute video, training video, detailing the offer, what we do, etc. And even if you're not interested, watch the video anyway, because I'll give you some good ideas. And then from there, if you're interested, book a call on our calendars, and we'll tell you all about it. And all right, so now that said, before we wrap up here, I want to ask. Looks like Chris is not coming in, so we will chastise him later. So I do want to ask, and I want to start doing this on every time we have an interview. So I'm gonna surprise you with this one. So, but I want to start doing, Neil, and I actually even talked to you about this, but I was wanting to ask everybody what their favorite or most impactful book is, right? And why, right? Because everybody has one. I know for me, is the War of Art was the one that really made a big difference in my life. So for you, Peter, can you name a book that had a big impact and why?
Oh boy. Ooh. Well, a big impact. I read like John Grisham, so is it a directive? No, I don't know. That it's not a great question for me, but I like to read. But
it's not one for me either.
I'm more of a suspense thriller guy. So that I don't know.
Me
it's
too.
not a
Love
huge
him.
impact.
Robert
Maybe I should
Ludlum.
read more. I love
fair enough.
John.
Well, for me, it was always The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. But if you want to talk about fiction, Adrian Tchaikovsky, I can't pronounce his last name, but if you like sci-fi, one of the best sci-fi writers out there, sci-fi and fantasy. I'm a bit of a nerd. I dig those kind of books.
That's
but
nice.
yeah. All right. Well, I guess I guess we can start wrapping things up here. Peter, is there anything you want to add, or anything that you want to throw out there that we haven't covered yet?
If you're very small, call me. If you're medium, call me. If you're large, call me. I could help you in so many different ways on at least how to try to set yourself up for the future on selling. And, I could find where your pain points are, and then I could pass you to Neil if you need back office help and if you need coaching, advertising, marketing. I mean, everyone here is an industry leader. again, it's hard to sell a firm for over $500 million. You have to build a pipeline of sales. It's selling, 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 selling. The more gross you do, the more you will get, period.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Excellent.
Peter, how do
And
we
Kwame
reach you?
just
Can you put
commented.
your email
Oh, yeah.
address up too, besides the form, to reach
Oh,
Peter
you know,
directly?
I deleted that
It's
actually.
Peter at
yeah.
pjrdirect.com.
That's right. It doesn't matter.
Peter, or go to the
Yeah, well-
form we'll send it. But if you want to reach Peter, Kwame wants to reach you. All right. So
Yeah, in
it's
fact, what
PJR,
we'll do is
Peter J. Rubenstein, Peter, right? PJR Direct, Peter, is that correct?
Yeah.
what we'll do
Okay,
then is
Peter at PJRdirect.com.
after the show. Yeah. So once the show is done, we'll put Peter's email address in the comments so you guys can access it right there as well. So either way, either go to backofficenow.com/broker or reach out to Peter directly, and I'll post the email down below. But Peter, it was great. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
We want
guys.
to have you on the show again, by the way. So it's been good. But next time, instead of a book, I'm going to ask you what your favorite dad joke is. All right.
Oh, right. That's the one we got to do. And next time for Peter, true fact. And we'll leave it at that. Peter, when I first met you, Peter was like 400 pounds.
All right, stop it.
No, listen, we both look at you. No, what do you stop it? It's okay. Proud of it. Peter was Peter and I both went on like weight journeys, different things. But yeah, we'll talk about that. Why not?
You were looking trim, and Neil, you don't look a day over 80, not a day.
I could look like Skeletor. I know.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate you watching this.
Thank you.
Again, don't forget, reach out to Peter. You can reach out here at this forum at backofficenow.com/contact. Oops, sorry, that's the. Let me put up the broker one. Oh, here it is. There it is. This one, /broker. And of course, if you want to have a sales marketing system built out for you as well, to spec, reach out to me there, realdsp.me/build. And last but not least, if you want to get your back office dialed in with the best in the business, go to backofficenow.com/contact. So anyway, that's it, guys. Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. And I will see you next week with our guest.
Boobies is the answer for your son's joke. I knew it, boobies.
And by the way, our guest next week is going to be Dave Ners, the president of NPA Worldwide. So don't miss it. That's it, guys. See you next week. Bye.